One of your possible unit essay prompts is as follows. From 1660 to 1871, European peoples experienced many different kinds of governments. Select one of the following nations and provide a thorough account of that nation's political development during this time frame: Great Britain, Prussia, France, or Austria. Be sure to not only describe these developments, but to also explain why change did or did not occur. Also, be sure to note the various ideologies that often motivated the various calls for change. As you can tell from your readings in chapters 15 to 21, a lot changed politically in Britain, France, Prussia, and Austria from 1660 to 1871. So let's briefly go over some of the larger developments in each nation, starting with Great Britain. Great Britain had a brief fling with absolutism in the 17th century, but ultimately settled on a more limited monarchy established during what supporters called the Glorious Revolution. Over the next 200 years, Parliament continued to accrue more power, while British monarchs basically became figureheads. France, well, that's a different story, right? They went from absolutism to limited monarchy to republic to, well, whatever they were under Napoleon, then back to monarchy, and then back to a republic, then whatever they were under Napoleon's nephew, Napoleon III. So while Britain seemed to contemporaries to be a model of stability, even though by modern standards they were not very democratic, France's political history was fairly volatile. Prussia, one of the many Germanic entities in Central Europe, experienced dramatic growth and change, though undoubtedly there is more growth than change, at least politically. Prussia grew from being a relatively small, unimportant kingdom tucked away in north-central Europe to one of the great powers of the continent. In the 19th century, Prussia, and much of the rest of the Germanic kingdoms and principalities, was rocked by what were ultimately failed revolutions. Yet these revolutions ultimately led somewhere, even if that destination was not exactly what supporters of revolution had often hoped for. By the 1860s, the Prussian kingdom was clearly leading the way toward German unification and the creation of modern-day Germany. Austria was generally considered one of the great powers of Europe at the time, an odd thing to think today. Just try to find Austria on the map. They experienced change, even if it was not quite as dramatic as that of neighbors like Prussia. Austria remained a monarchy over the course of this 200-year period, yet the rulers from the long-lived Habsburg family occasionally proved willing to tinker around the edges, so to speak. By the 19th century, the pressures of new ideologies, combined with being a multilingual, multi-ethnic empire, began to reveal some cracks in the Austrian facade. In all of these nations, at varying levels of intensity, a variety of isms, so to speak, exerted influence over the minds of many, so to be sure to include this in your essay. Liberalism, conservatism, nationalism, and socialism were all creatures of the 19th century, and gained influential followings that would shape the ebb and flow of political developments. As you observe the influence of these different ideologies, be sure to note how the definitions or characteristics of these different ideologies does not always match modern American concepts of what it means to be liberal, conservative, or nationalist. Ideologies, like much else, change over time and place. Hopefully, these brief overviews give you a starting point from which to begin crafting your essay. Be sure to be as thorough as possible, incorporating examples from your textbook as you go along. Be sure that your examples are directly relevant and help move your argument along. And, as always, please contact me if you have any questions about the best way to move forward.